The reason you scream at a television when 11 strangers in matching shirts kick a ball into a net is the exact same reason your ancestors screamed when their tribe won a brutal clash against a rival group. Same brain circuit, same chemical rush. The only real difference is that nobody's actually in danger, and there's a halftime snack. Stick around, because it gets weirder than that. Right now, billions of people are glued to screens watching the World Cup, and if you zoom out far enough, this isn't really a sports event. It's a global ritual for assessing which groups of men are the most dangerous, dressed up in shorts and sponsored by a beer company. Here's the setup. For most of human history, you didn't have nations. You had small bands, and those bands were almost constantly sizing each other up. Anthropologists estimate that in some traditional societies, somewhere between 13 and 30% of adult men never made it through conflicts between groups. That is an absolutely brutal number. If your group lost a fight, you didn't just lose. You could lose everything, your resources, sometimes your entire community. So evolution did what evolution always does when the stakes are this high. It built you a very specific, very obsessive piece of psychological machinery for dealing with it. Researchers John Tooby and Lita Kosmides called this coalitional psychology, and it's basically your brain's built-in operating system for tracking us versus them. It doesn't care if them is a rival hunting band or a football club from 400 miles away. The software runs the same either way. It just needs a couple of simple cues to switch on: a clear us, a clear them, and something to compete over. Give it matching colors and a shared enemy, and the ancient machinery does the rest, whether the colors are war paint or a polyester jersey with a sponsor logo on it. And once you know that, football stops looking like a game and starts looking like a threat assessment simulator. Think about what a match actually asks your ancient brain to evaluate. Are the men on our side strong? Fast? Coordinated? Do they work together or fall apart under pressure? Every tackle, every sprint down the wing, every wall of defenders holding a line, your brain is quietly filing all of it away as evidence. Evidence of exactly the kind of thing that used to determine whether your group held its ground or lost everything to a rival. A 2010 study literally tested this. Researchers named it, without a trace of irony, the evolutionary significance of Red Sox Nation. They found that sports fandom correlates strongly with something psychologists call binding moral concerns, especially loyalty, the same moral wiring that makes soldiers protect each other and tribes defend their turf. The stronger someone's sense of group loyalty, the harder they fall for a team. You're not just choosing a favorite. You're activating the same loyalty circuitry your ancestors needed to stay safe from outsiders. This also explains something that should feel a little uncomfortable once you notice it: how quickly you can hate a stranger for wearing the wrong color shirt. Coalitional psychology doesn't require an actual reason to distrust them. It just requires a visible marker of group membership. Slap a different crest on a human being, and some ancient part of your brain quietly reclassifies them as a potential threat, purely on outfit alone. This is also, conveniently, why almost every wildly popular team sport rewards the exact same skills: running, tackling, throwing things accurately, coordinating with teammates under pressure. Football, rugby, American football, basketball, hockey, all different games, same underlying tryout for war-relevant abilities. You are not watching entertainment. You are watching a military recruitment audition that forgot to bring any actual weapons. And here's a detail that should sting a little. This entire system is almost exclusively obsessed with men. The most watched, most fanatically followed team sports on the planet, football, rugby, American football, hockey, are dominated by male athletes, watched by male-heavy crowds, driven by male-coded aggression like tackling, checking, and outright collision. That's not an accident of marketing. Ancestral warfare was overwhelmingly a male activity, carried out almost entirely by men and assessed almost entirely by men trying to figure out which allies and rivals were worth taking seriously. So the psychological reward system built around assessing how dangerous and coordinated is this group of men got wired almost entirely around watching men do exactly that, and it stayed remarkably consistent for thousands of years since. Okay, so football is ancient warfare. Fine, but why can't you look away during a close match specifically? Why does a 1-1 draw feel like it might actually undo you? This is where it gets genuinely clever, and it circles right back to dopamine, the same misunderstood chemical from basically every other explainer on this topic. Quick refresher: dopamine doesn't fire when something good happens. It fires in the gap between not knowing and finding out. A 2024 neuroscience paper on football fandom specifically studied why the sport is so gripping, and the answer sits right there in the numbers. Football is low-scoring, wildly unpredictable. A single goal can flip the entire emotional outcome of 90 minutes in one unscripted second. Your brain has no idea what's coming next, and that uncertainty is precisely the fuel dopamine runs on. Basketball, by comparison, scores constantly, dozens of times a game, which almost defeats the purpose. When a reward shows up every 30 seconds like clockwork, your brain stops treating it as meaningful information and starts treating it as background noise. Football makes you wait and wait and wait, tension building with every near miss and every offside flag and every ball that clangs off the crossbar, until one moment detonates the whole 90 minutes at once. That's not a design flaw in the sport. That's the entire addictive engine, running on the exact same, maybe this time circuitry, that makes a slot machine impossible to put down. And there's a bonus system running underneath all of this: mirror neurons. When you watch a striker sprint past a defender, cells in your own motor cortex fire as though you're the one running. You're not just watching the game. Some genuinely confused part of your brain thinks it's playing the game. That's why you flinch at a bad tackle, or lean sideways on your couch trying to help a corner kick find the net that's happening on a screen 4,000 miles away. Your body is quietly rehearsing the exact movements it would need if this were actually your fight. Then there's the crowd itself, which does something almost eerie once you notice it. Tens of thousands of strangers chanting the same words in rhythm, at the same volume, at the same second. That kind of synchronized group behavior isn't unique to stadiums. It shows up in war chants, religious rituals, military drills, anything where a group needs to feel physically like a single unified force rather than a scattered crowd of individuals. Singing the same chant as 40,000 strangers isn't just tradition. It's your coalitional psychology literally binding you to the group in real time, one synchronized syllable at a time. Now, none of this started with a leather ball and a green pitch. This exact ritual has been running for thousands of years, just wearing different outfits. Around 2500 BC, ancient Egyptians buried a child with a ball made of linen rags and string, evidence that organized ball play is old enough to predate most of recorded history, tucked into a tomb like it was too important to leave behind in the afterlife. Around 2300 BC, Chinese soldiers were playing kuju, a game played with a leather ball stuffed with feathers, kicked between players using footwork techniques that survive in paintings today and would look startlingly familiar to a modern football fan. And in Mesoamerica, entire civilizations built massive stone ball courts, some large enough to hold thousands of spectators, for a ritual ball game so significant that the losing side sometimes paid the highest possible price, which really puts your team's last penalty shootout loss in perspective. Anthropologists have also documented something even more telling among hunter-gatherer societies studied in the last few centuries. Neighboring groups would routinely challenge each other to organized athletic contests instead of raids. Not fights. Games complete with rules, teams, and an agreed-upon way of determining a winner. A way of fighting without fighting. As researchers have put it, letting rival groups assess each other's strength and coordination without anyone actually coming to harm over it. That's not a metaphor for football. That might genuinely be football's oldest ancestor, running on the exact same logic thousands of years before anyone invented a crossbar. Which reframes the entire World Cup as something almost absurdly practical. Instead of nations sending armies to size each other up through violence, they send 11 guys in matching shirts to do it through a ball, in front of a global audience that treats the outcome like it actually matters. Same coalitional signal. Same psychological payoff. Same national pride, same flag waving, same sense that your country's honor is somehow on the line. Vastly gentler stakes and significantly better merchandising. So the next time you find yourself yelling at a screen, heart pounding, stomach in knots over whether a ball crosses a line, you're not overreacting to a game. You're running multi-million-year-old software that once decided whether your entire community held its ground or lost everything. Now pointed at 11 strangers who have absolutely no idea you exist and never will. Your ancestors sized up rival tribes by watching who could run fastest, hit hardest, and hold formation the longest under pressure. You're doing the exact same thing right now from a couch, in pajamas, holding a remote instead of a spear, just with better lighting, worse grass, and a halftime snack your ancestors would have fought an entire rival tribe for. No metaphor needed.